Alright then, it's Don Huddersfield here, and today we're going to talk about a TV show that on paper really shouldn't have become one of the biggest cultural forces Britain has ever produced. A grimy soap opera set around a fictional square in East London. It didn't have dragons, superheroes, or glamorous Americans drinking cocktails in mansions overlooking Los Angeles, and it certainly didn't have impossibly attractive doctors snuggling each other in spotless private hospitals. It was more about rousing tiny kitchens, warm lager in dodgy pubs, market traders screaming at each other before sunrise, families collapsing in public, and the occasional character getting his head flushed down the bog by his stepdad. And yet, somehow, Eastenders became absolutely enormous. It became a kind of show where Christmas episodes basically stopped the country, characters started feeling like your own family, tabloids covered the stories as if they were real, and just hearing one drum snare from the theme tune can instantly make you think, oh, see, Max Browning's got his leg over again. It's lasted through Thatcher, through Britpop, through New Labour, through reality TV, through streaming, and even through TikTok slowly destroying everyone's attention spans. 41 years into its life, millions of people still care deeply about the lives of people living in a fictional part of East London. So how the hell did it all happen? Eastenders didn't just become popular by accident, it arrived at exactly the right moment. It understood Britain better than most politicians did, and it managed to evolve without completely losing what made people care about it in the first place. One of the first things you need to think about when understanding why EastEnders got so big is that in the early 80s, the BBC really needed its own soap giant. ITV was dominating soap operas. Coronation Street was untouchable, it was warm, familiar, funny, and already deeply embedded into British culture. It had Emmerdale as well, which was a lot slower but very cosy, and much different to how it is today. The BBC had nothing close to this, and this mattered because soaps weren't background TV back then. They were massive national events that pulled in audiences that modern TV executives could only dream about. So the BBC wanted something that could compete with Coronation Street and Emmerdale and Crossroads. It had to be something harsher, younger, more urban, and more reflective of Thatcher-era Britain. Because Britain in the 1980s wasn't cosy, there was lots of unemployment, industrial decline, social unrest, racism, economic anxiety, and inner city tension. And the BBC wanted a soap that actually reflected all of this. So they brought in Julia Smith and Tony Holland, who understood working class Britain and understood that audiences were ready for something grittier. They didn't want polished fantasy, they wanted arguments that felt real, and storylines that were like nothing you'd seen on TV before. That's how Waltham was born, and why EastEnders first hit UK TV screens on Tuesday the 19th of February 1985. Another thing you need to understand is that EastEnders owes a huge debt to Brookside. Brookside launched on Channel 4 in 1982 and completely shook up British soaps. It was political, socially aware, realistic, visually different, and far grittier than audiences were used to. Characters argued about unemployment, money and social problems in a way that felt much closer to real life than Coronation Street and Emmerdale. EastEnders learned from Brookside, and the creators spotted something clever. Although Brookside had lots of realism, it didn't have a proper central collision point, like a pub. It had no Rover's Return, like in Coronation Street, and it didn't have a Woolpack, like in Emmerdale. So EastEnders created the Queen Vic. The pub became a storytelling machine that allowed secrets to explode in public, families to clash, rumours to spread, and the whole cast to collide in a natural way. It made sure everyday drama became communal drama, and that helped EastEnders become addictive very quickly. It also looks like real London. One of the biggest reasons EastEnders hit so hard in 1985 was that Britain had never had a soap that looked like modern London. From day one, the cast included black families, Asian families, Jewish characters, immigrants, working class white families, unemployed people, market traders, single parents. It wasn't part of any sort of diversity initiative, it was just London, and that made EastEnders feel contemporary right away. Compare that to the older soaps, which still reflected a much more monochrome version of Britain. EastEnders felt current. Some TV shows take years to find their identity. EastEnders basically arrived knowing exactly what it was. From the first few episodes, the dialogue was really sharp, the rows felt believable, the tension was uncomfortable, and the relationships felt complicated. They didn't have people talking like sitcom characters, they talked like they would in real life. They snapped at each other, they held grudges, they got angry over their financial struggles, they got drunk, they made terrible decisions, and audiences loved it because it felt truthful, even when the plots became quite sensational. The first truly massive moment happened on Christmas Day 1986 when Den Watts served Angie, his wife, The Divorce Papers. Around 30 million people watched this. 30 million. You're just not going to get numbers like that watching a soap ever again because everything's too fragmented. This was a national shared experience. Very quickly on into its life, EastEnders stopped feeling like just a programme. People talked about Walford like it was real. Characters became cultural shorthand, so we compare people they knew to Phil Mitchell or Dot Cotton or Bianca. The show became embedded into British language and culture. EastEnders also knew that conflict doesn't disappear quickly after one day. Trauma and grudges were held for years and it made Walford feel alive. Things had consequences. Affairs that people had still mattered years later. Family feuds lasted for generations. This kind of continuity kept viewers emotionally invested for years. Another remarkable thing about EastEnders is the amount of stuff they got away with before the watershed at 9. Over an hour before the watershed, it's covered things like domestic abuse, sexual abuse, murder, addiction, knife crime, racism, HIV, suicide, coercive control, mental illness, alcoholism, grief, grooming and male depression, and showed some really violent scenes as well. Although it really didn't actually rely on graphic content, a lot of it was about the implication and aftermath. Characters could carry the emotional damage from things that had happened to them for years afterwards, sometimes decades. The show knew that what happens after trauma is often more powerful than the event itself. And because EastEnders constantly pushed boundaries, it frequently sparked outrage from the tabloids, MPs and viewers who claimed it had become too depressing. The controversy often just made the show bigger. If you missed EastEnders in the 80s or 90s and forgot to record it, or watch the omnibus, it was too easy to miss out. You couldn't go on an iPlayer and catch up, there were no YouTube summaries or anything like that, so it was easy to get left behind. Meanwhile, classic clips and episodes from Walford performed really well online, even amongst people that weren't born when they originally broadcast. EastEnders mastered huge event episodes like Sharon-gate, You Ain't My Mother, Who Shot Phil, Stacey and Max, Bradley falling from the Vic roof, Lucy Beale's murder, the flash-forward Christmas murder storyline. These were huge cultural moments, not just soap plots. By the 1990s, EastEnders was absolutely dominant, and a big part of that was the arrival of the Mitchells in 1990. Peggy arrived later, but Phil Grant and Peggy and Sam gave the show menace, humour, volatility, emotional dysfunction and iconic one-liners. The Mitchell era turned EastEnders into compulsive viewing. Phil's still there today, and at the time of recording, Grant's back for his latest stint. The show knew that audiences love larger-than-life characters as long as the emotional core still feels plausible. The show's also survived many bad eras, with big drops in viewers. One reason it's still here in 2026 is because it always pulls it back. There's been lots of periods where people thought the show was finished creatively. There's a big dip around 2004 where the producer had to go, and there's a lot of controversy with Ronnie's baby swap. At times storylines have dragged, characters have disappeared into the background, the pacing's become weird, storylines have become less believable, and there's been way too much of a focus on gangsters and the criminal underworld. But every time someone says EastEnders is dead, it's not too long before viewers are tuning in religiously again. Soaps work differently to most TV shows. For instance, a season of a drama can kill it off forever and get it cancelled, but soaps can always reinvent themselves and bounce back. EastEnders has done that many times. iPlayer has also helped it attract young audiences over the last 10-15 years. It means no one has to be at home at the right time to see it, and it means you can watch any time you like as long as you have iPlayer access. Episodes drop early online so you can stream them before they're broadcast on telly. You can binge watch entire weeks. The cliffhangers go viral on social media right away, and all of this keeps younger audiences really engaged. It's also easy to watch classic episodes, and documentaries plus spin-offs like E20 expand the Walford universe. EastEnders isn't something you just catch when it's on anymore. It's permanently available, so there's no need to ever miss it, and that's really important in the streaming age. A lot of people say EastEnders has had a big resurgence in the 2020s. The writing's tightened up, the pacing's improved, the cast feels stronger, and the show's become more cinematic. One of the smartest ideas in modern soap history was the Christmas flash-forward murder mystery. It generated theories, reaction videos, online debates, TikTok clips, YouTube analysis channels, and helped the show feel culturally alive again. You've also had Cindy Beale returning from the dead. I think she's the third character to do that. Strong new families like the Panasars and Knights, the upgraded set and sharper direction. Today, EastEnders looks nothing like a decrepit aging soap, and it's starting to feel like prestige event television at times. And here's one of the biggest examples of why EastEnders still matters in 2026. The recent return of Nigel Bates, who sadly passed away. Nigel was always remembered as one of the warmer and most lovable classic EastEnders characters from the 90s, so bringing him back with dementia was a genuinely emotional gut punch for long-term viewers. It tapped into things millions of British families understand personally, including ageing, memory loss, relying on carers, and a fear of death and watching somebody slowly disappear. EastEnders has always been at its strongest when it places huge emotional issues in familiar characters audiences really care about. That's why storylines like this hit harder than some issue-based dramas do. People aren't watching strangers, they're watching characters they've known for decades. The fact that EastEnders understands British life is probably the simplest explanation for why it's lasted so long. It understands Britain better than a lot of supposedly serious television does, because it understands class tension, family loyalty, resentment, gossip, pride, money worries, pubs, grief and community. It understands how British people actually speak. No matter how OTT the storylines have seemed over the years, the characters have normally remained relatable, and that's a big part of why viewers keep coming back. So even in the age of Netflix, TikTok, YouTube, endless streaming, collapsing linear TV audiences, EastEnders still matters because it offers something many modern shows don't. Shared national storytelling, the Christmas episodes millions still watch, cliffhangers that trend online, the characters that quickly become part of memes, and the way that Walford still feels real to its viewers. People watch EastEnders with parents, grandparents and children. That's 3 generations connected by the same square. EastEnders got so big because it's understood something simple but powerful. Ordinary life can be dramatic enough. You don't need superheroes or fantasy worlds. You need characters people believe in, problems people recognise, and enough emotional truth to make audiences care. EastEnders, for 41 years, has reflected Britain at its harshest, funniest, grittiest, loudest and messiest. Once the country became emotionally invested in Walford, it never let go. I've been Don Huddersfield, and that's how EastEnders got so big. If you like that, please subscribe for more tales on how things British people love got so popular.